Malarndirri, to you first of all, the change of date campaign just doesn't have the support it needs to, even though we have this debate every year, but that support not quite there. Was that a surprise to you?
Oh, look, it's not a surprise, but again, Carl, just this time of year, it is the predictable conversations that are occurring around the 26th of January. I believe that the focus should be on changing attitudes. We have so much to do in our country that we can do and should be doing, and I'd like to see a lot more energy into changing the attitudes of Australians towards not only First Nations people, but how we can actually work together going forward on the 26th of January.
It's odd, isn't it, that it seems to be that this is only ever discussed in the days leading up to Australia Day, and then it goes for the rest of the year. I mean, shouldn't...
Yeah, that's... Well, I don't know if is it odd? I don't know. Yeah. I just think it, you know, in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it just seems to have escalated into a much more frenzied sort of discussion and debate, to the point of some people feeling really uncomfortable to talk about it. And I don't think we should see anyone being uncomfortable to talk about their feelings and views about this particular day.
Just on the 26th, I mean, should we walk away from the difficult things that need to be acknowledged and confronted, and then maybe we come together as one after we acknowledge those things on that day?
Well, I don't think we should walk away. I think what you're saying is we should actually acknowledge it. Is that right, Carl? Yeah. So I would think, you know, early morning sunrise, I think you do that in Sydney with special ceremonies there. Certainly around Australia there's been different thoughts of, you know, whether you have a minute's silence or you have early morning sunrises and actually have a healing ceremony. I think those are really beautiful things, and our country shows we can do that on other particular days, and, you know, especially Anzac Day. And whilst I'm not comparing the two directly, I'm trying to point out that we are capable as the people of Australia, and we can do all of it. So let's make sure, as you pointed out, let's talk about the past and the history and acknowledge it in the morning, and then go and do whatever it is you do to enjoy being in this country.
I mean, I just can't listen to you anymore. You don't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Gus, I mean, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Exactly, absolutely nailed in 35 seconds, which is exactly what we should be hearing, this type of stuff. But I've never quite understood why we couldn't get really good people together and all decide that what day do we want it and celebrate that particular day. And like you say, all that we've just heard this morning is perfect.
The ABC is now calling it Invasion Day, as well as Australia Day. Yeah. Is that more divisive?
I think so. I mean, I imagine what they're doing is they're the natural broadcaster saying, look, if we say something, then it's going to start a debate. But I think we're already sort of past that. I think what we've heard in the last couple of minutes is much more sensible. And I just think being divisive at the moment is probably the last thing we need to do after the year we've had and the fact that we've got so much sort of unknown going into 2021.
Malarndirri, just on your proposal, which I think makes perfect sense, are there going to be some members of the Indigenous community that just aren't happy with that at all?
Of course. I mean, First Nations people don't all think the same, just like, you know, anyone else. You know, we all have our different views. We have different areas of land. I come from the Yanyu and Gadawa people of the Gulf country. Even in my own clans, there'd be different thinking and viewpoints. I guess for me personally, though, Carl, it's... we have to, ultimately, we can always look at our differences, but we have to find the one thing that brings us together to still stay collectively together and respect and reflect on the some of the atrocities of the past and even current day with the high Indigenous incarceration rates, you know, the high rates of removal of children. So we've got to have a fairly balanced approach to this. But just on Invasion Day, if I can just add into that with Gus, I do think that, you know, I wrote an op-ed for the NT News up here yesterday and just said, look, whatever you call it, you know, Cricket Australia is going to call it January 26th, someone else is going to call it Survival Day, Invasion Day, Australia Day, whatever day you call it, can we just respect each other's individual views?
Okay. In terms of addressing those larger things as well, I think that absolutely has to be done. Racism in this country, that they're the big issues that need to be addressed, and hopefully we can come together on Australia Day.